See,
so it's like a little telenovela on the side.
What I've always wanted is basically it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Set in Westeros.
Yep.
And instead of Charlie and Dennis and Mac and the sister whose name I can never remember, Dee, instead of them, we have Tyrion and Bronn and Jaime and Cersei.
Yes.
You guys are ridiculous. I'm just putting that out there.
How hilarious would that show? That show would be fantastic.
I would pay for that.
Right. I would get
pay for that.
pay-per-view, subscription to whatever streaming needs to happen to watch that show. Warning, the following show will spoil the hell out of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire books and the TV show A Game of Thrones. Also, you're probably going to find a fuck ton of bad language. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Death and boobies, 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 death and boobies.
Welcome back to the Ironwood Network Book Club. I am your host, Maester Ironwood, and with me, as always, today is Lady Wyvern and Widow Wolfsbane. Lady Wyvern, Widow Wolfsbane, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I'm very excited about today.
Excellent.
Less excited about some of the other chapters, but still very excited.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're getting to our third chapter in the book, our first Catelyn chapter, Catelyn 1. Always exciting to be in the mind of Catelyn. Maybe a little scary sometimes as well.
A little scary, I agree there.
But, yep, so...
I don't have big of a big opinion on that yet, since this is my first time reading through.
I have a serious negative view of Catelyn Stark, or to the point where I sometimes refuse to call her Catelyn Stark and just call her Catelyn Tully.
Yeah.
Because that's how much I don't like her.
That's fair. Well, I mean, I feel like she'd probably agree with you after reading this chapter.
Yeah.
So.
Even her husband calls her a Tully, so...
So, yeah, Catelyn Tully, Catelyn 1, and Widow Wolfsbane, you have put together a brief synopsis of Catelyn's first chapter for us.
I did.
So
I did indeed.
Why don't you go ahead and walk us through what happens here in the chapter? That way we can get to breaking it down and talking about it.
All right. So, in this chapter, where we're starting with Catelyn, it is right after Ned brought out a good group of his men to go behead our friend Garrett, who deserted the wall. So she's starting out in the Godswood, where she's looking for Ned after he did his beheading. And from what it seems in this chapter, he actually goes there quite frequently to be able to de-stress and relieve some of the anxiety and the tensions that he has in the presence of his gods that are the old gods as opposed to the new. As Catelyn likes to explain to us on multiple occasions, that she, even just in these about 4 or 5 pages, she puts in there multiple times that the old gods and the new gods are not the same thing, and she doesn't like the old gods.
Yeah, a lot of complaints inside of Catelyn's mind here. Doesn't like the Godswood, doesn't like the North, not sure about the Northerners.
I think we should just start calling her Nancy, because she's quite the negative Nancy. So, like, I'm fine with that. But yeah, she did that. So she went over to go see her husband. She ended up, commenting on the tree, informing us of what the weirwood trees look like, with the very white pale bark, and then the blood red leaves that are on it, and then also the pool that is next to the tree that is, the waters are black in it.
Pure black water. That's kind of cool.
Yes, I agree. So I was very interested in that. But she's talking to Ned about this. She's asking him about, if he's all right, making sure that he's recovering well from the stress, I would say, of having to have taken a life, since that is not something he has ever been fond of, even though he did help Robert through the rebellions. But she also comes to tell him that a good friend of his from those rebellions has passed away, that a raven has come, and that she can't really make this blow any easier than it could be, by letting him know that a good friend of his, John Arryn, has passed away, and that they had sent a raven to let him know. And that, at the bottom, there's like a little PS at the bottom, the king's coming to the north. BT dubs, have fun with that. Do what you will. And, of course, Ned is ecstatic that his best friend is coming back, but at the same time is a little exhausted over the fact that he neglects to give him some decent time to prepare for the fact that well over 100 people are going to be storming his castles very soon for food and shelter.
Yeah. Yeah, Ned a little nervous about making sure to put on the good family face when the king arrives.
I agree.
Everything has to be perfect.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, and then it also did give us a little bit more of the information about the wolf pups from the last chapter, about how the children are doing with the wolf pups, and that Rickon, poor Rickon, is only 3 years old. And of course, we see our ever-famous Stark Woods here, that winter is coming and he needs to face his fears because he won't be 3 forever.
Yep. The Northerners, tough folk, apparently.
They are.
Very tough.
They like to ice their children. They like to give them some ice baths and toughen them up real good. Give them a good skin.
Not really a whole heck of a lot going on in the chapter. It's really just a quick scene, but we do get some pretty good information. A lot of things that are going to kind of set up where our story is going. It's one of those kind of like filler in between, set up the next few chapters, next few books type of things.
Absolutely.
Going on
Let
in this
everyone know what's
chapter.
happening.
Yeah, so like you said, we start with Ned. Well, actually, we start with Catelyn's mind telling us that she doesn't like the Godswood because it's dark and cold and...
Nothing like the South.
Nothing like the Godswood at River Run where she grew up that was all bright and cheery.
And you only went there to like read books or lay in the sun because we're frivolous people. So yeah. She grew up as, of course they're high standing people, they're nobility in this world, and it's
only the best for Catelyn Stark.
Of course. And the Tullys kept a Godswood, as the great houses did, but it was only a place to walk or read or lie in the sun. Worship was for the sept. Because, God forbid you worship anywhere but in your church.
But in the North, everyone worships
everywhere.
The old gods.
I would definitely, I would draw some...
Almost everybody.
Almost.
We do learn later on that White Harbor, which is in the north, they actually follow the seven.
Well, there's got to be one in every...
So...
Yeah, but I would definitely draw some equivocations between some constructed religions of, today's day and age with the gods of the seven versus the very pagan type people of the North.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the seven seems more like a kind of like a multi-deity version of Christianity of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got like official churches, and we'll learn later on that it's got priests and priestesses, which are septas and septons, and it's even got a high septon, which would be like the Pope. So, we do kind of get that that's kind of like the Christianity of the land, and that the Northerners are the pagans, the old gods, the gods that are much more natural in their powers. So
indeed,
and their beliefs,
and we'll also learn sacrifices and things like that the Northerners have done. So yeah, it's interesting. We kind of get that little bit of contrast between the gods of the Starks and the men of the North and the gods of the Southerners, and kind of like a light and a dark, another light and dark contrast in the story.
Yes.
You get the two main sets of religions in Westeros, which I think is pretty interesting. And so then we find Ned cleaning off his sword ice after having executed the deserter from the Night's Watch in the previous chapter.
Yes.
And he's sitting in front of the Godswood, the Weirwood tree, the God's tree, the Heart tree, and using the black water of the pool to clean off the sword. And we learn that that's not the original ice. That's ice that has been around for 400 years, I think. And so, but it replaces a sword that was much, much, much older.
Yes, we did. We found that out. 400 years old it was, and as sharp as the day it was forged. Its name still bore its older still, a legacy from the age of heroes when the Starks were the kings of the North.
Right, and
yes.
I think we get into, I think we're going to be in the next book that comes out, probably finding out which sword that was that ice replaced.
That'd be nice to know.
I've seen hintings that we might be going there, but we do learn that the Stark family sword is 400 years old, that it's a ceremonial sword, it's too big to be used in combat. We learned that in the last chapter, and that whenever Ned takes a life with it, he goes into the Godswood and sits at the Weirwood tree and cleans off the blade, with the dark water from the pool, which I find fascinating because later on in the books we're going to find out that the children of the forest and even the first men conducted human sacrifices at the weirwood trees. So I'm wondering if maybe Ned, who claims to not be superstitious and not like to follow along with superstitious things, is actually still kind of conducting a blood sacrifice in his own way.
By putting the blood in the water.
By putting the blood in the water at the front of the weirwood tree.
That's interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah. It seems to me that even Ned Stark, who doesn't believe in superstitious things so far as we know, is every time he takes a life with that sword, he cleans it with that black water at the weirwood tree.
And only with that black water.
And only with that black water. So I find that interesting. I think that we're supposed to try to read between the lines that Ned Stark is much more of a believer in the power of the old gods and the way to worship the old gods than we're kind of led to believe as surface value.
Oh, see, and I had been, when I was first reading this, I had a similar thought, but not quite as founded, where I feel as though he doesn't believe necessarily in the old gods, like he doesn't believe in that they have power over anybody or that they're really there, but that he still has a respect for them because he does still follow a lot of the tradition where he does go to the weirwood tree every time he takes a life, and he does find comfort and solace there.
Yep.
But that he still is not a, oh, I don't believe in omens and I don't believe in this, and he still uses the gods' names as the same way people today would say they would praise Jesus Christ. He still uses the old gods as that kind of fashion, but he's also that kind of guy that goes, Jesus Christ, in the same fashion, and uses their name in vain frequently too.
Yeah, definitely not a born again believer in the old gods.
Definitely not.
Definitely not a born again believer. But and we learned that he spends a lot of time here in the Godswood by the weirwood tree, which is also interesting when you think about not just when he kills a man, but he spends a lot of time in the Godswood at the weirwood tree.
It's very much a place he seems to go to be able to think things over and reflect a lot of his life.
And just to avoid any spoilers for you guys, but we will eventually learn that there are other uses for weirwood trees that may explain why Ned spends so much time at his weirwood tree. Because if you pay careful attention to the way that Catelyn describes the face on the weirwood tree, you will find that later on it's described as the weirwood trees can be used almost like a communication tool in a way.
Oh, I see. I was thinking of more of like a wacky tobacco kind of sense that you were getting at.
Well, no, geez. But in the like in the show, Bran can connect through the weirwood trees.
Yes.
To see things that are going on all over the place.
Yes.
That's the power that he gets as a green seer. Mm-hmm. So you can basically, it's almost like warging or skin changing into the tree.
And using it as kind of like a television source, except
and
backwards.
The trees are described as the face that you see on them is often the same face as the last person who connected to that tree. So you pay attention to the way Catelyn describes the face in the tree.
Like it's always looking at her?
Well, but the description of it is sullen with, like dark eyes and that like a long sullen look on it. Okay. It's the way that Ned Stark his face is almost always described.
That is true. So
my thought is that Ned Stark is kind of skin changing into this weirwood tree for some reason.
That could be, or that he knows that those are the uses of the tree, and stringent, even if he's not connecting as it per se, that the tree is definitely taking on his likeness because he uses it and spends the most time with it trying to connect with the old gods and trying to connect with his spirituality that he seems to not want people to really think that he has.
Right.
He wants people to think that he's a very stringent, science fact. And
that's what I think. That's what I think it is I think he wants people to understand that he's a reasoned leader who thinks things through carefully and not just kind of does things on the whim like a lot of people would think that like a religious person might do.
So he doesn't want people to think he's about the Spanish Inquisition.
Right, exactly. He wants to be seen as a wise leader who carefully thinks through all of his decisions, not bases them on what some people consider superstition, especially when you've got, the North, which, the entirety of the south of Westeros considers their entire religion to be of hoopy-doopy old natural nonsense crap that they don't believe in because they've got the gods of they got the 7 gods.
They're the voodoo witch doctors of the world.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons why he downplays his belief in the old gods and their powers is to kind of just give him that aura of being just kind of like a reasoned leader.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. I can totally see that.
I think that's a bit much.
You think it's a bit much?
I think it's a bit much.
You need to explain this to us.
Yes, what do you mean? My theory's a bit much?
Yes, I think your theory's a bit much.
Okay, how?
I just don't get the whole Ned warging into the tree thing. I don't, because there's no... From me reading this book, there's no stance in where Ned is warging into anything.
Right.
There's no magic to Ned in this book.
That we see.
Now,
mind you, all of Ned's children have skin-changing abilities.
Yes, and that's from the Stark line, but we've never seen anywhere where Ned has any of these. Spoiler alert.
We're never shown. We're never directly shown. You are correct. We are never directly shown that Ned has any kind of magical ability.
Correct.
Skin-changing or otherwise. However, the Stark family have been wargs since the original Kings of Winter.
So that face could be somebody else. It could be a different Stark.
It's entirely possible.
Because why would he warg into a tree he's sitting right next to?
Because he could probably use that tree as a source.
Then you use the rest of the network to see or communicate with people or places far away.
Like
the way Bran does when he's in the cave. The way Bran does when he's in the cave with Bloodraven, where he attaches to the weirwood tree, and then he can see things that are happening wherever there's a weirwood tree.
Right.
And even be able to interact with the places that he's seeing. Where in the show, where he's able to yell out "Dad," and young Ned hears him.
But he thinks it's just the wind.
It's described in the books and in the show as a whisper on the wind, which I said. Remember when Jon Snow found Ghost in the previous chapter?
There was something in the wind.
Pay attention to Jon describes it as a whisper on the wind because that does come back.
But there's not a tree there.
There's not a weirwood tree there, but we learned that once you connect to the Weirwood Network, that then you have basically access to see the entirety of what the trees and the animals and Children of the Forest have all seen throughout all of time.
Okay.
It's all kind of stored in the collective consciousness of the tree.
So they can see things that aren't just around the tree.
Right, okay. Exactly.
That would make sense about the scene in the show about the Tower of Joy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, yes, and you're right. It could be a different Stark face, but Ned's face is described as long and sullen with dark eyes and,
his brother
deep lines.
Was too, wasn't he?
Right, yes, but...
Brandon or Benjen?
The one that died.
Brandon. But no, Brandon was never described as dark and sullen. Because Brandon was kind of like the life of the party kind of... He was like the fun Stark.
Yeah. Okay, Benjen was more of the...
I'm confused with Benjen then.
Yeah, Benjen's more of the dark and sullen
loner.
Benjen has more access to a tree north of the wall. There's
Benjen would have played it. So Benjen...
But again, that's a different tree.
So, I mean, if it's a different tree...
Right, but if it's a different tree, he can still see...
He could still see Ned through that other tree, so maybe he's checking on his brother.
Right, but what we learn is that the trees take on the face, like the look of the face, like they all have the face carved into them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The face in the tree takes on the look of the last person who connects to that tree.
Okay.
So I wonder if maybe Benjen and Ned are talking to each other.
Because the tree's face in the Godswood at Winterfell is described similarly to Ned's face, you are led to infer that Ned is using that tree in a way that we don't explicitly see. Like, George isn't going to just come out and tell us right out that Ned Stark has these magical abilities.
Spoiler alert, but George tells us who Jon's father is.
I guess.
But we are led to infer through several pieces of information. Like, all of the Starks throughout history have had the ability to warg, which is skin change into wolves.
And I haven't gotten to that point.
Right.
Yet, but...
And so if all of the Starks in the past and all of Ned's children have the ability to do these things, it would make zero sense that Ned is the only Stark in the entire history of Starks that doesn't have this ability to do it.
Question. As a person who's never seen anything but the shows, really, and I'm only reading the first couple chapters of the book so far, where is Sansa's ability to do any of this? Because Sansa comes to be the most useless character in the entire series to me.
Well, Sansa doesn't ever get to really fully develop it because her wolf is killed almost immediately. She has the connection with Lady, but then Lady is killed within the first,
couple months,
5 chapters of the book. We're going to get to it. So
it's not long after King Robert arrives. So
it's like episode 2 of the show.
Yeah, so it's like a
where
month,
Lady
6
is killed.
weeks.
So she never really gets to fully develop that gift.
Okay.
So
that would make sense. But it's still a bit much for me, I think.
Yeah.
Right now.
And
so
it's not verified. It's not verified that that's true.
Right.
I think we're going to learn more about it. I think we're going to, as we get to know the Manderleys in White Harbor, I think we're going to learn more about the potential of Ned being able to do these things. I just believe right now that there's enough evidence there that Ned does have these abilities, and that's one of the reasons why he spends, as his children call it, an unreasonable amount of time at the Weirwood tree in the Godswood.
I guess I'll have to keep reading to maybe change my mind.
Right. But yeah, I think that from all I've read, I think there's enough evidence there to say that Ned probably has the ability to use the Weirwoods. Probably even has the ability to skin change, because that's very common among Starks, especially pure-blooded Starks.
I guess I'll have to see this evidence the more I read.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, there's other things that people have said that I believe. Like, there's some people who've said that...
You just gave yourself some information. You just said a line that contradicts your belief of who Jon Snow's actual parents are and the legitimacy of the children. Because you said that only true-blooded Starks are able to use the wurging power.
Well, I believe that Jon Snow is actually Jon Stark and is probably the oldest true-born son of Ned Stark. I happen to believe that that's true.
But is there any evidence of him working with
There's no evidence
Wolf?
of Jon Snow being able to work so far. And all of his other children can, and they can also skin change.
I happen to know that Jon is the first one who pairs with his wolf within the next couple chapters of the book.
Okay.
Jon is the first one who's able to connect with his wolf in a way that the other ones don't. Ghost is the first wolf that is fully trained and paired with Jon. I mean, you look at, Shaggy Dog's running around like an idiot because Rickon runs around like a moron. I mean,
Yeah, that doesn't ever change.
Bran ends up in a coma.
They're very much like they're humans.
Summer actually connects with Bran almost as fast as Ghost does with Jon, because Bran is in a coma, and therefore kind of like Summer has kind of like direct contact with his brain that way.
Okay.
So we've talked extensively about a lot of things that are probably going to have to get cut out and pushed to later episodes, just to kind of go over some information and theories, which is fine.
Listen, we can add snippets in later and stuff like that. That's what editing's for.
I think it was a good discussion on the Weirwoods and Ned and why it's possible that Ned has magical abilities to use them, and arguments for we haven't seen enough evidence to get there yet, which I think is one of the reasons why it's cool to have people who are not that far in the books and people who have been through all of the books kind of talking about them together on the show, because I think that it brings in multiple perspectives. And I kind of, as I'm going through them for like the umpteenth time, I forget what it's like to go through them the first time and not have all of the pieces yet.
You still don't have all the pieces.
Right, but all the pieces that are out.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I don't have the pieces in the final 2 books. Nobody does. But all the pieces in the first 5 books, I've already got in my head and puzzling them together.
Right.
I forget what it's like to not have the pieces from book 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in my head while I'm reading book 1.
Right.
So it's good to have perspective where you can say, you're kind of calm when I call bullshit on Ned being able to use the Weirwood trip. Like, oh, that's right, because we kind of haven't gotten to anything that actually explains why that's possible.
Exactly.
We haven't gotten to the part where we're told that the Weirwood trees have the face of the person who last used them and things like that. We haven't gotten there. So In my head, it makes perfect sense.
In mine, it makes absolutely none.
Exactly. And in the minds of some of our listeners, I'm sure it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I sound like a crazy person. So,
you are a crazy person.
He is a crazy person.
Very true, I am a crazy person.
If you think he's a crazy person, you're just absolutely right.
Yeah.
You don't need founded evidence for that.
Okay, so we've made it all the way to Ned sitting at the tree. So we need to get to Catelyn talking to Ned and letting Ned know that she has received a raven from King's Landing and that Jon Arryn, who was the foster father of both Ned and Robert Baratheon when they were younger, this is where Ned met King Robert.
At the Eyrie.
At the Eyrie, the Vale, yep. Has died, and that he was Ned's brother-in-law as well because he married Catelyn's sister Lysa at the same time that Ned married Catelyn in forming the union with Riverrun to help out with Robert's rebellion. That was kind of like the deal that was struck. And then he was also Robert's Hand of the King, which we come to learn is the second most powerful, important person in the entirety of the kingdom.
He's like an entire parliament in and of himself.
Yes, the king shits and the hand wipes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
As Tyrion Lannister likes to put it, absolutely.
I say he's kind of the parliament to the figurehead that's the king. The king gets to do a lot of the stuff and make a lot of the rules, but the hand is the one that kind of follows through with all the shit that the king decides to throw around.
Yeah. The hand is so powerful that we'll learn that he's the only other person besides the king who can sit on the throne.
Yes.
That's how powerful the Hand of the King is.
Yes.
Is that he can actually sit on the throne and speak with the king's voice.
I say, and if you have seen the show, then you have seen later in the third, fourth, maybe fifth episodes that Ned Stark does sit on the throne while Robert is sick.
Yep. Or when he's out hunting as well.
Yeah, or when he's out hunting.
And can make royal decrees in the name of the king.
Yes, and it's not just because Ned is Robert's best friend.
Yeah, it's because he has that power, and Jon Arryn was the man who had that power before Ned.
Yes.
And Jon has died, so Ned is obviously sad that Jon has died, and in the conversation, he tells Catelyn to take the children and go to the Vale to be with her sister Lysa because she just lost her husband, Jon Arryn.
Her son, Robin.
And her son, Sweet Robin, who in the books is actually Robert.
Robert.
We had to change it for the show because apparently people can't keep the fact that there would be two Roberts together in their head. So we have, in the TV show, we have Robert the King and Robin the weakly little boy.
Yes.
In the books, it is Robert the King and Robert Arryn.
I think they also did that because Robb Stark is a strong character, and this is from a show watcher perspective. Robb Stark is a strong person. He becomes a very powerful leader, as did Robert Baratheon. Whereas Robin is a insolent
sucking out his mother's tits at 7 years old.
Exactly. And robins are not, they're a hardy bird in and of themselves, but they're also considered fragile. It's a fragile, little songbird. And so I think they kind of they did that in the show to make a reference to Robb Stark is strong and powerful like the king, and Robin is this weak little pathetic kid who flies into a window and then flaps on the ground before a cat eats it.
Well put. Well put. But yes, but in the books, he is Robert.
Okay.
And so Ned tells Catelyn, we'll take the children and go to the Vale, be with your sister. What does he say? Bring the light and, loveliness of childhood to her halls, make her laugh, make her not be sad, help her feel better. And Catelyn tells Ned that she can't do that. Mm-hmm. And he says, why? And she says, well, because also on the PS line, King Robert and 300 people are on their way to Winterfell as we speak.
BT dubs, Ned, I'm coming up to visit you. I just, our best friend died, and I'm going to come say hi. How's it going?
Yep. So,
I'm already on my way when you get this.
Yeah, so Ned starts to freak out We've got to put together, a welcome for the royal family and the king and 300 people, and he starts kind of...
And those Lannister bastards.
Going on about the fact that the Lannisters are going to come.
Yes,
damn Lannisters.
I'm all right with the Lannisters personally so far, but you can tell that Ned is very much an anti-Lannister person, and they do explain it's because the Lannisters came to Robert's aid well at the end of the battle.
Yes.
The same way that, the Americans decided to come in at the very tail end of, was it World War II? Or World War I?
World War I.
World War I. We decided, oh, you guys are winning? Oh, let's jump in on this winning bandwagon over here and be great.
Yes, absolutely. There's always a joke about the late Lord Walter Frey.
Indeed.
Who was late to the Battle of the Trident.
Yes.
And showed up after the side that he was supposed to be on had already won. And they never make that joke about Tywin Lannister.
Even though
he did the same exact thing.
He will kill you.
Tywin Lannister is Machiavelli, and he will just slit your throat for that shit.
Yes, he would. He does not tolerate. To bring in some cross references from different shows, I actually kind of equate Tywin Lannister to Negan from The Walking Dead.
Oh, Negan wishes he was as badass as Tywin Lannister.
I agree.
Yes, he does, but they both will shut that shit down.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I mean, let's not forget that the Reigns of Castamere, the song, has a very specific meaning. And that's because Tywin Lannister basically single-handedly, with his own army and his own... When he wasn't even the Lord of the Rock yet, his father still was, took it upon himself to go and completely destroy the Reigns household and kill every last member of that household, so the Reigns no longer exist. And that's where we get the song The Reigns of Castamere. So that's Tywin Lannister.
That's news to me. I thought it was, like physical rain.
Nope. The Reigns. It's Reynes, The Reigns of Castamere.
I guess I should keep reading.
Yep, the Reigns were a family that had their house at Castamere, and Tywin Lannister killed every single one of them. And made sure that they would never be a problem again.
That's some mafia level shit right
there.
Yeah,
that's Machiavelli shit right there.
Arya Stark.
Yeah. So, and then I want to bring up real quick, as I was reading this right before we started too, I just realized on my second skim through on this chapter that I feel like Ned, he cares about Catelyn, he loves Catelyn, it's his wife, but she's kind of like a nanny to him, because apparently... he would always ask her that and refer to, where are the children? Her biggest role in his life is to just know where his children are at all times.
Well, I think that's kind of standard for that time, right? I mean, he's the Lord. Yeah. He's got to basically take care of the entire North and, kind of be involved in everybody's business throughout the entire North. And,
big area.
And we kind of see that. I mean, Robert is the same way with his children. I think Ned, for all intents and purposes, is a much better father than you would imagine he would have time to be, being the Warden of the North.
This is very true, especially since, and he includes his children in a lot of things, and he wants to make sure that they grow up in an aspect that's going to prepare them for the lifestyle that they're going to live in the North itself, too.
The solemn duty that they're going to have as the Lords of the North.
He also wants to make sure they know how to say winter is coming in every single conversation as possible.
Winter is coming.
Winter is always coming, as they'll say later on. The Starks are eventually always right. Winter is coming.
This is true. This is true.
But yeah, so I completely agree. Yes. It's funny. I find it hilarious, almost like season 2 of The Walking Dead, where where Laurie's always going around, where's Carl? Where's Carl? Because Carl's never around and she's never watching him.
Yes.
And he's just running around doing whatever. It's almost like Ned's like, oh, where's the kids? Where are the kids? What are the kids doing?
Heads up, there might be quite a few Walking Dead references to what we're doing here and some crossovers, because the three of us are very intent Walking Dead fans also.
Yes, and I saw that they're doing a crossover, Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead.
I did. I saw that.
My only thought is that it has to be Abraham.
And Rosita.
And Eugene.
Because they came from Texas.
They did. They came from Texas. They were the only ones that came out that far from the show.
And it gets Michael Cutlets back into the Walking Dead world, which I am 100% down with.
Absolutely.
You could put Michael Cutlets in a freaking puppet show, and I will watch that shit.
I could not stand Abraham for the longest time.
But he was so good.
But I think one of the reasons why I don't like him so much is because I feel like he just takes a lot of my sentences away from me. I use the word shit for everything.
Great one-liners. Great one-liners. Mother Dick.
He makes it famous.
Mother Dick.
And then, I don't remember what the line is. All I know is something about Rick knows this shit better than a shitstorm and some shit or whatever. I don't know. But he just said shit like 15 times in a row and how Rick's the only one that knows this shit.
Yep.
So...
Yeah. I think that there's the only thing I can say for A Song of Ice and Fire is that there's a serious lack of Mother Dick in this show.
There is a lack of Mother Dick on this show.
We need an Abraham in there when John Aaron dies. We need somebody in the background. Mother Dick.
I feel like we get that when Bronn comes in, though. Like, if Bronn is actually in the books as much as he's in the show in some of the seasons, then I think we do get our Abraham there. Because Bronn's pretty much of that. He's like, I mean, he'll just sit there and motherfuck.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to give any spoilers, but as the show goes, because we've all seen the show, so I will base this comment on the show. As the show goes, Bronn is my favorite character.
Bronn is hilarious.
Bronn is amazing, and I would love to see Bronn win the Game of Thrones on the TV show.
That would be beautiful.
Sit upon the Iron Throne.
Oh, I mean, he's going to get a lot of angry comments for that one.
How many castles has he been promised by the Lannisters, though?
At least 2.
One. Jamie promised him 1 castle.
So did Tyrion at some point, didn't he?
No.
No, Tyrion promised him money.
Double whatever they...
Yeah.
Right. In the most recent season.
What happens if, like, either Tyrion and Cersei or Tyrion and Jaime decide that they're going to fight over Bronn and who gets to keep him? I mean, I know Cersei's not probably going to be part of this, but that's beside the show for personal reasons for them.
Well, I think that there's a way for them to give Bronn 2 castles. I saw a meme that was hilarious where it goes, Tyrion says, whatever my brother offered you, I'll double it. And it's Bronn going, well, he offered me a castle. How can you double that? And then he goes, "Who are there 2 castles out there that a single person could rule that have no ruler?"
Absolutely.
And it shows the twins.
It does.
It shows the twins. It's like, there you go, 2 castles.
There's nobody at the twins right now?
The whole Frey family was slaughtered by Arya.
I'd say Arya kind of went Jack the Ripper on them and then started baking them into pies. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep. So that was fantastic. So there are 2 castles out there that Bronn could rule.
This is true.
Okay. I would love to see Bronn in charge of something on the show, at least.
I would love that. Bronn is fantastic. He deserves the world.
Yep. Now, you were talking about how you were still liking the Lannisters.
Oh, yeah. So...
Why?
Well, I agree with her. I still, even to this day, having been through all of the books, I am a huge Jaime Lannister fan.
Oh, I love Jaime Lannister.
Like,
I love him.
Like, I think that even the part where we're supposed to not like Jaime,
yes,
which is coming up in a couple of chapters,
yes,
I think that he had some very solid, legitimate reasons
to
do what he did that make perfect sense, and you could argue that what he did was the best choice in that situation for not just his family or himself, but for the entire realm.
I'm just sad that it didn't work out as how he was hoping it would.
While I agree with that, I still think it was a horrible thing to do.
Oh, no doubt. Spoiler alert, throwing a child out of a window, bad idea. However, when you think about who the Lannisters are,
yes,
and how important they are in the realm,
yes,
and the power that their family holds, and what would happen if news of what was seen got out, verifiable, right? Because everybody has their suspicions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But if actual verifiable information about that got out, the realm would have been torn asunder. And Robert would have gone to war with Tywin Lannister.
Oh, absolutely.
And the North still would have had to come in to fight the war as well.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
but if it was
Jaime made a calculated decision that he needed to protect not only his family, but the realm itself.
Now, do you think the war would have still happened if Bran had died?
Wait, hold on. Before we answer that, I do have to say, though, I do not think that Jaime was thinking that when he did what he did, though.
No, I don't think
about saving the realm and saving the... I don't think he was thinking that far ahead because Jaime's not that kind of guy.
No, he said, the things I do for love.
But that's the thing. He says, the things I do for love. And what do we know? Yes, Jaime loves his sister. We know
in more
that.
ways than one.
But we also know that Jaime loves the realm because it is specifically stated later on. I don't know if you two have gotten to it, but in the show, the show it has been said.
Yeah,
Yes.
the show I have.
And in the books, it's also said later on that the reason he killed the king was because he wanted to stop the king from using wildfire to blow up all of King's Landing.
Yes, that is true.
So he did that for his love of the realm.
And he
so he
Okay,
says,
I'll give him that.
Yeah, he stained his own honor.
I do for love.
Yeah, I say, and he stained his own honor in defending the realm by brandishing himself as the king's
So you
slayer.
could see it both ways, and yes, there was obviously some selfishness to it.
Of course.
Obviously.
But
well, I mean, he got interrupted before he could finish. I don't blame him.
But you could easily.
I wouldn't
make
push
the
a kid
argument.
out the window just because someone walked in on me having sex.
I'm sure many a parent has thought it though.
Yeah, but if you knew that being seen and that getting out would start a war that would involve thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying, would you then say?
Well, thankfully, I do not have that sitting on my shoulder, so I don't have to worry about it.
Right, but is one child's life worth the tens of thousands of children?
Well, I guess it doesn't matter because tens of thousands are going to die anyways.
Right, but he didn't know that at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, is one child's life worth more than 10,000 children's lives?
Right.
If there's a war.
All right.
So he also didn't want to have his children lose their chance.
Right, because not
just
just missing their chance to be the heirs of the throne. Let's be clear about this.
Yeah.
They would have been killed.
Oh, absolutely.
Robert would have had them executed.
He would have had
all of the
Lannisters,
including the children.
Yes.
Joffrey, Tommen, and Marcella.
Yes.
Would have all been executed.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
Yep.
So it's
they wouldn't even got
not that it's the children's fault.
Right. No, it's not their fault. But it's not just saving their lineage to be Baratheons and be kings. It's to save their lives.
Yes.
So Jaime's actions, while yes horrible, are in every sense of the word noble and honorable.
And this is all going to get cut out anyways.
He's trying to save lives.
All right, back to the end of the chapter.
No, I'm going to leave that in. I'm going to leave that in because we were discussing the Lannisters,
okay.
and I'll leave that in. I think that's good, and I will proudly go on record this early as saying I am a Jaime fan. I don't think Jaime even needs a redemption arc. He has a good one going on in the show and in the books.
You know what would be a fantastic thing, though, and I think that you would 100% agree with me on this? There should be a sitcom show of the Lannisters family, because I think it'd be hilarious. They are dysfunctional enough that it would be absolutely hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I like them, is because within this fantasy world, the Lannisters as a family is just kind of their own little drama. So it's like a little telenovela on the side.
What I've always wanted is, basically, it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Set in Westeros.
Yep.
And instead of Charlie and Dennis and Mac and the sister, whose name I can never remember, Dee, instead of them, we have Tyrion and Bronn and Jaime and Cersei.
Yes.
You guys are ridiculous. I'm just putting that out there.
How hilarious would that show? That show would be fantastic.
I would pay for that.
Right. I would get pay-per-view, subscription to whatever streaming needs to happen to watch that show.
And if Peter Dinklage is in it, it's worth that much more, because
who else can play Tyrion?
Exactly, no one else can play Tyrion the way that Peter Dinklage does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with his Space Pants. Shout out to Space Pants. You need to watch that.
I've watched that. That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
You have no taste, madam.
I know. I am well aware.
No
as
taste.
I get told very frequently. I'm a...
Ignore Lady Wyvern, and you need to go watch Space Pants.
You do not have to
not
watch
seen it.
Space
I have
Pants.
no idea what it is, so
it's not worth it.
I will not weigh in one way or the other on Space
He can weigh in next time, because I'm going to show him after we're done recording what this is about.
It's not worth it.
It's
it really
it's 100% worth it.
You'd have to be extremely drunk. You'd have to be extremely drunk or extremely high to watch that shit.
Well, I'm neither,
funny.
so
exactly.
That's all right. We'll go.
I'm neither of those things at the moment, so.
I don't know. If you like Monty Python, you'll like this.
I do like Monty Python.
You'll like
it.
She doesn't like Monty Python, so her
I never
opinion is
said
invalid.
I don't like Monty Python. I never said I don't like Monty Python.
I'm just a British comedy fan because they have that dry, sarcastic wit. That's my thing.
Exactly.
I love that. This is the machine that goes,
yes. Yes. Nothing will ever replace my love, though, more than the late parrot skit. So that is probably my favorite Monty Python anything in the entire planet, is the late parrot skit, and then right behind that is the Ministry of Silly Walks.
My favorite part was in History of the World Part 2, which is amazing because there's no History of the World Part 1, first of all. Amazing.
No, it's part 1. There's no part 2.
No, it's Part 2, not 1.
No, I just bought it. I just bought it. There's part 1, but not part 2.
That's right. That's what it is, yes. Yep. But my favorite part is when they're using the office buildings as pirate ships.
Yes. Absolutely.
So fantastic.
All right.
All right, we've gotten a little off topic here, but you guys will probably enjoy a little bit of it.
So we've gone through, I think we've kind of covered everything in the chapter.
Yep, basically now it's just to the point where they discuss what they have to do to get ready for the king's
which
arrival.
is everything.
Everything.
And do everything within 2 weeks.
We have to bring the whores in, we have to make the food, make sure we
You got to bring the whores in because Tyrion's coming.
Yes, absolutely.
You definitely have to bring in as many whores as possible.
They also have to bring as much wine as possible because he is known to drink a lot. Oh, and the candles because he likes to read a lot at night.
And we need to bring Benjen down from the wall.
Yes.
Because Benjen is...
It's more than 2 weeks. They're at least a month out, and it takes at least 3 weeks to come down from the wall.
But it also takes...
800 miles.
Well, right. One person can make it faster.
One person can make it faster.
Benjen's coming by himself, then a whole group.
They'd have to kill the poor horse to get there that soon.
Who's Benjen? He's probably got a magic horse.
Benjen
Stark.
Benjen's got the best horse on the wall.
I think they still have at least a month before they get there.
Benjen Stark is first ranger. He has the best horse on the wall.
I understand that, but I still think it's at least a month before King Robert and the rest of the
Yes, I think you're about right. It's probably somewhere between 3 or 4 weeks, and Benjen they'll need to get word to Benjen fast to get him down there, because he obviously would also be friends with Robert.
Yes.
And because he's, Ned's younger brother. So, and we'll get to questions about Benjen later on, and why the fuck is Benjen at the wall, because I don't understand why Benjen's there.
I don't either. He tries to deter Jon from going to the wall too in the show, and I think
but
that's absolutely right.
But I don't think he really tries to deter him. I think he wants him to wait.
Don't they?
That's true. He
always
wants him to
have a Stark at the wall.
Well, that's one of my theories. Is that like a Stark must always be in Winterfell? I wonder if there must always be a Stark at the wall.
I mean, they are the
because the Starks are one of the few noble big house families that still send trueborn sons to the wall.
But you never hear Ned, or anybody for that matter, discussing sending Bran or Rickon to the wall.
Right.
Well, Rickon's also nowhere near old enough for that.
But it doesn't matter how old they are. If that's what he's going to do with the rest of his life, they would know it.
No, maybe not that young.
Yeah,
but his parents would discuss it.
Yeah, but not yet. And you got to remember that Catelyn loves her kids, so Ned's got to wait till before he springs on Catelyn the whole. By the way, I'm going to send one of your sons to the wall.
Yeah, I'm sure Waymore Royce in the prologue did not know his entire life he was going to the wall either.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's probably something they don't tell you about.
Right away.
Yeah.
But the Royces also seem to be one of
they're
those
already
families
grooming Bran to become a lord.
Well, because he's going to either at some point hold a castle of his own. Right. It won't be Winterfell because that's Robb's.
Yes.
So it won't be Winterfell, but he will be the lord of something.
Yes.
Now, being the youngest, it probably will fall to Rickon if there needs to be a Stark of every generation at the wall. It would most likely fall to Rickon to be the one who would go to the wall. Just like Benjen is the youngest of his generation of Starks.
That is true.
Yes.
So therefore, he was the one. I assume that Waymar Royce, as the fifth son, was probably the youngest
son.
of his generation.
Well, and he was only 18
therefore
too.
was the one who was sent to the wall.
Then that would make sense. Yes.
So, and I wonder if there is some kind of deeply ingrained, duty history type thing where the Starks always send a trueborn son to the wall. The Royces always send a trueborn son to the wall.
Right.
That
like these houses that are specifically
North.
Remember, right? The North remembers.
Yes, and unlike what he said, he said that there's the possibility it could be every generation, but it could also just be any living one.
When one dies, then another one has to go.
So
right,
they might never have discussed it because if Benjen's still alive, there's no reason for any of them.
Right. Yeah. And Benjen's still a young man,
and they would expect.
So you could probably get another generation in before you need to have another go.
True.
Yeah,
that is true.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it just seems it's too much of a coincidence that Benjen, who at the time he chose to go to the wall, Brandon was dead. And Ned only had one heir,
Rob,
who was still in infancy. And yet Benjen, who basically would be second in line to the North, opted to go to the wall. Right, I mean...
We don't know the story behind that.
We don't know why.
Yeah, my only assumption would be that if Benjen didn't have a child and Ned already had one, or two, depending on what theories you're following... that he would not want to send a guy who already has a family to the wall. So, and because if he were to make Ned as the youngest child go to the wall, Ned would have to give up his son and his family at this point that he already has.
Right.
Whereas if Benjen doesn't have that.
And we're assuming that the Stark has to go to the wall.
Yes.
Yes. Because Ned already has sons.
And one of my other wonderings is does Benjen make the choice to go to the wall himself? Or is he forced there by Ned for some reason?
I guess we'll find out, hopefully, in the next
Maybe
couple
Benjen
books.
knows too much.
Yep. Kitty Cat making a guest appearance. Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Thanks for rubbing your tail all over the microphone. Perfect sound quality.
All right. So I guess I think, does anybody have anything else for this chapter that we need to go over?
Just that Catelyn's very negative, and she doesn't exude any confidence.
She's only negative about things like pertaining to the North, though. She's very an upright person as far as like Ned is constantly refers to the queen of the realm as that Lannister woman.
Yes.
Like no respect whatsoever. That Lannister woman. Like won't even use her name.
And we can
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, well she's constantly having to tell Ned like that woman is our queen, and you should refer to her as our queen, or you should refer to her by, like, you know, at least her first name, probably.
So she's not just a nanny, she's a nagging nanny.
She's a nagging negative Nancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, nagging negative Nancy nanny.
So, if you're going to take anything away from this episode of the book club, it is that we meet Catelyn, and we can all agree that Catelyn sucks.
Yes.
She does. I agree.
Yep.
She doesn't deserve to be a Stark.
There you go. So that is Catelyn 1, the third chapter of the Game of Thrones, if you got the prologue. And we will see you guys on the next episode of the Ironwood Network Book Club, where we will be breaking down Daenerys 1. Our first Dany chapter. We're finally going to get there, meet Dany, see what's going on with her. Should be a rousing good time. And probably an interesting debate because we've got two people who like and one person who does not like Dany whatsoever.
Two guesses who that is.
Two guesses on who doesn't like Dany.
I'm going to put this out there, too.
It's me.
I'm going to put this out there, too. We're officially going to get into our mock Game of Thrones lyric, where it starts becoming about tits and wine and death and boobies. Death and boobies, death and boobies, death and boobies. Because we get our first glimpse of boobies, if it's anything like the show at Daenerys' boobies, when, you know, Viserys, when she takes her bath and Viserys is treating her like a piece of meat.
And he gives her a purple nurple.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Yep, gives her the old titty twister. Yep, gotta love Viserys.
Asshole.
He can't die too fast.
No, he cannot.
All right, so that's the end of the book club for this time. We will see you guys next time. Have a good day.